Hey there viewers, welcome back to Ray of All Trades. Today we are working on the same 2006 Chevrolet Silverado. It's got the infamous, notorious, whatever you want to call it, clunk noise whenever you put it in drive and reverse. And I'm going to try to demonstrate the noise first, and then I'll show you what I found. It can be a lot more involved. It can be problems in the transmission, transfer case, things like that. But one of the things I noticed is that the carrier bearing on this is completely worn out, and so are the U-joints. So let me show you what I found. When you got the vehicle sitting on a flat incline, anything like that, if you step on the brake and put it in gear, you hear that clunk noise. It doesn't do it every single time, and it's more when it's been sitting, had a chance to rest, and then you got to put it in gear and it goes clunk. So I'll show you what I found. So set your emergency brake. Don't rely only on the emergency brake. We're going to put this in neutral, make it easier to turn the drive shaft. Turn the key off, at least attempt to turn the key off. Let's chock the wheels. If the emergency brake and the wheel chock holds the vehicle, you can feel pretty safe with climbing up underneath it, because we're going to be disconnecting the drive shaft eventually. If necessary, strap the truck to a tree, something like that, just to keep it from rolling away. Preferably on flat ground is your best friend. I don't have flat ground here, so I'm working with what I got. It's the end of the truck. Okay, so this right here is a two-piece drive shaft, and you can see the amount of play in it. There's a rubber bushing in here inside this carrier that needs to come out. So we're going to be pulling the yoke out of the transmission out. We're going to be lowering these two bolts here, which are two different sizes if I remember right. We're going to be changing that front U-joint, this middle U-joint, and we're going to be changing that back U-joint. So we're going to take those four bolts out and drop that center carrier, pull it out of the transmission, and then we're going to bring it up into the shop to work on it. Okay, 11 millimeter is what these are. I'm going to make a mark on the drive shaft and a spot on the yoke. We're going to leave the drive shaft sitting inside the yoke, the U-joint sitting inside the yoke, until we get the middle carrier loose. Alright, so two 15 millimeters. This one, they're the same size on my Duramax truck. It's two different sizes. I just remembered what was special about these. There's a shoulder nut on there, and if you use a deep well socket, standard depth, you can't get there's not enough space for a standard deep well socket to reach. So I'm going to try to use another 15 millimeter wrench or ratchet to loosen this one, and maybe it'll drop enough that I can get my ratchet back out. Looks like a standard shallow well is not deep enough. Yeah, so I just pulled the socket loose from the ratchet, and so it's holding about halfway. believe it or not, this is the easy part of this job, getting it out of here. So don't be under it when it finally comes loose, because it will come down. And it does have some weight to it. Like I said, it's trying to come down. And now I'm not underneath. I'm off the side of the vehicle. So when I pop this loose, I also set up a wooden block under there to try to take some of the impact when it goes to fall. All I want to do is knock it loose. So it comes out of the transmission just by pulling the drive shaft out. So I'm going to slide under and pull that drive shaft out. I'm going to carry this up into the shop and, like I said, do the hard work. Okay, so the hardest part to change on this is that carrier right there. So we want to disconnect this U-joint, pull off this boot, and get this off of here and get the new one on before we get too far. These will be extremely tough to get out of here. Try using a good pair of diagonal cutters. A lot of times they'll give you a little bit better grip, and they can get those to come out. Safety glasses. Wear safety glasses when you're messing with these things. So these springs will go flying. Speaking of which, keep these clamps, because there's a chance you may lose one in the process, and having these old clamps on hand sometimes will save you, at least save you a trip back to the store. The old way of doing this would be heat this up and pound it out of here. I actually like utilizing this little kit, and I'll link it in the description. It's a ball joint separating tool, and I have got more than my money's worth out of it. My compressor is going to keep coming on during this, so I apologize for the noise. Sure that the other one fits in there. What you're trying to do is match it up to something that fits that that line there. It may be one that you have to slowly keep adjusting. Sure we're lined up. It looks pretty close. It's pretty tight. Let's flip it on its side, make sure we're lined up. Looks like we're slightly off. We're slightly off. Let me try to hit it back in place with a hammer real quick. It's going to be a lot of that back and forth on this. I have to loosen it up just a hair. We're going to try to tackle this other one and get it out of the way. Because this one is giving me a fit. What's happening is the cups are supposed to come in from the outside are coming to the inside, and I'm having a heck of a time getting them out of there. So let's just hope that this one comes out any easier. We're lined up. Almost out. Go. Let's see. Nope, it almost came out. Can't go any further because the U-joint won't go anywhere further that way. So that's what you're after. Get that out of there. Usually I have to push that end back through because I usually can't get it out of there. So I'm just going to line it back up. Now more than ever, this needs to be exactly lined up. Oh. Except for the U-joint has to be in line too. Just get it started and see if it starts to go in there. There we go. I think it's starting to work. Get that one lined up on the bottom. Comes off like that. I'm going to pull off these clamps. We might have to reuse these clamps, so be really careful taking them apart. We're going to line up the Spicer name with the label. Let's pull that off. I think it's actually keyed. Yeah, that right there might be the key. It's got a line on it. Alright, so now that's out of there, we're going to go put this in the vise. Because we got to, well, I can try to do it right here without having to move you guys. Let me just try. If I can get it off of there, great. Pay attention to how far up this is on here. It should have a a mark like where the other one was at, but just know roughly how far up it's got to go. And the best way I've seen to get these off of here is to use an air chisel. I'm used to that cup coming off with it. Alright, let me just pry it off of there anyhow. Okay. What we're trying to take out is there's a bearing in here that's riding on top of that. It's pressed on right there. I'm trying to get that off of there. Let's see if that helps, taking that cup off first. Believe it or not, it's working its way off of there. There we go. And then you can see how it's torn. That's what was torn. So, bearing sits right here on this. So, clean this up, especially after just messing with all that air chisel. I'm sure that there's some burrs there. Yep, I feel a couple. So let's clean that up. You can use a file if you need to. Okay, Amazon made in China let me down. I'm just going to set this back on here so I don't forget it, because I have before. It stinks having to do it twice. Let's go ahead and see if the U-joints that they sent me are correct. So 4 new locks and a grease fitting. Put the grease fitting in at the end. So the cups, if you pull them off carefully and set them down, they won't fly off when you're assembling. So do one of those, and then set that, take that cup with it. Make sure they stay clean. So I set it in from the outside. Okay, the parts I ordered off of Amazon are not correct. So thankfully my friends over at AutoZone got me squared away. The parts I needed were Moog 232 on this one. Had a larger end cap on it. New grease fitting, new end cap, locking rings. So we were going to reassemble this. Let's go through one of them detailed, and I'll fast forward through the rest of them. So keep the end caps clean. Take them off. Oh, no, it is. Alright, so this one, the grease fitting is actually on the end cap. That's different. I'm used to that grease fitting being right there. So, yeah, let's take the cap. We're going to push it in from the outside edge. Do not drop it. We'll take our bearing, our universal joint, feed it up through there, and then set it down gently into that cap until you feel it mashed in there like that. Getting it very, very close. Now we can set this in place. Now I'm going to be holding up on the universal joint so that those bearings don't fall out. It's going to be find a flat surface like that, because you don't want this hammering on that center part because it can break that center part. So all we're going to do is use a flat surface like that. Again, my hand is holding up on the universal joint. Okay. I just went down until it's flat. Okay, again, I'm still holding up on that universal joint. Right now I'm holding down on the universal joint. I'll take the other cap, and I'm going to come in from the other side. You can either bring this from the bottom up or the top down, it doesn't matter. But as soon as it's somewhat in place, try to move your universal joint into that groove and make sure that it goes into that groove so that nothing fell out of place. That's not dropping in there like it should. There we go. Alright. I'm going to give this an opportunity to sit there in the middle. And the same thing again. I'm going to hold up on the universal joint. I'm going to ease that new one right down. Probably put it halfway between the two. What I'm trying to do is keep the needle bearings in line while I'm doing this. wasn't dropping in easy, and you want to make sure that it can. So it slides up and down easy. Okay. Bottom down on that one. Okay. 3/4 inch socket is the right size for this one. Okay, I'm down below that lip there. Let's grab one of these rings. Make sure that that ring falls into the groove. Basically, I squeezed it until it dropped into the groove. Right. Now that shouldn't pop back out unless you were to put that impact on there. It shouldn't pop back out and bust that. So this one should drive down far enough to allow that same ring to go in place. Got a little bit different pitch there. I was listening for. It's not going to have a lot of extra slack. I mean, you're going to have to work to get it into that groove. One ring is different than the rest. That must be for the one that has the grease fitting on it. There we go. Dropped it in just like it was supposed to. Now let's do the same thing on this one. Remember I said the word spicer went to that side? So let's put this cup in there. So it goes in the top side first. Rotate it down. Slide it down to where it just fits. I'm holding up on the U-joint to put pressure against there. Falls out like that, make sure it goes all the way back in place. If needles fall out, it won't drop back in place. I'm flat. Let's put that back where it belongs. Let's get this cap put in place. set everything like it's supposed to be. I want to get it snugged up. Okay, so that's snug. Get my impact ready. Now I'm going to take that U-joint and make sure that it goes up and down, all the way up and all the way down. Move it somewhere in the middle so that it should line up. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing that we did before. Yep. There we go. Make sure everything works like it's supposed to. Blood. Yeah, she drew a little bit of blood. I don't like it. I'm gonna do the same thing on this one. We're gonna leave that part till last. Let's try to put it on this part of the drive shaft first. I'm gonna try to face the grease fitting on the narrower. Actually, on this one, yeah, they're about the same. They're about the same, so it doesn't really matter which one the grease fitting goes to. But Take your grease fittings off. Your bearing caps. Take those off. Slide it in from the bottom. Take your universal joint, slide it up through, and drop it into those bearings. Hold tension coming up. Kind of hoping that spot where the drive shaft drew blood, I caught on video. So I don't think anybody's going to believe me knowing that the drive shaft drew first blood. If that's not a reason for wearing safety glasses, I don't know what is. Of course, it wasn't my eye, right? But knock on wood. Holding up tension on the universal joint into the bearing cap. Try to center it up so it just even pressure down. Changes pitch. Back it out. Put it over, grab your next bearing cap, make sure all the bearings are okay. Slide it in, raise your universal joint up to it, and make sure that it goes into that cap straight. Get set back up in place. One goes there. That goes there. Okay. I'm going to change your position. Alright, I'm going to hold. Make sure that this universal joint slides all the way up both sides. I'll put it somewhere in the middle. I'm just trying to keep all the needle bearings from moving. It's already bottom. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. That's just a scratch that keeps bleeding. I apologize. Hope nobody gets squeamish. Almost there. Now we need the other half of this. And the word Spicer. And this one I scratched. It was on the label side. This was the one that the label side went up. Squeeze that cap in there. Make sure your needle bearings are okay. It goes from the top side like that. Shift it and drop it straight into those bearings. You want to be really careful because you're trying not to knock any of those needle bearings over. Hold upwards tension. I usually do this on a workbench in a vise, and it's a lot easier when all these pieces aren't moving. But I couldn't video that very well, so I am trying. Make sure that the universal joint slides all the way up into that other cup. It does. Let's move it to the halfway position. Before I forget, let's grease that one up. We got one more. Just like the others. I should have known the box was empty, or the box was open, and it's missing the grease fitting. Give me a second, let me see if I can locate one. Otherwise this has to go back. So I went to AutoZone, picked up my pieces. Duralast HB4016A. They have several models of this thing. This one happens to be a 40 millimeter. The first one I had was a 35 millimeter. And it looked like they listed a 50 millimeter too. I wasn't clear if that was for this same model or not. But anyway, that's why I had to return the other one. Came with a new sleeve. Looks like you can take this off. Just push those two rubber grommets in. Just make it a little easier to work with. Alright, so it's been a little while because I had forgotten. But anyway, my chisel marks are all on this side. So the sleeve must have faced out because I was hammering that direction. So anyway, that sleeve goes on like that. Let's see how tight that is to push on there. I think a mallet and a little bit of a WD-40, we might be able to get this together. I bet there's an install tool that allows you to drive this on here. And if this doesn't go easily, I'm going to look at potentially finding a socket or a sleeve or something that'll fit. It's working its way on there. Let me see if I can find a pipe or something that's a little bit bigger and better. Yeah, I found a pipe for this thing. I'm gonna get it in a vise because I really want to hold this steady and work it very, very slowly. So I'm trying to drive the center part of that bearing. That's what I want to be hitting on. I don't want to be hitting on anything out here if I can help it. I'm going to try to use, like I said, a mallet, work my way around, and slowly work it onto there. So it looks like my pipe reached that recess here. So, and it won't fit over the top of that, so I'm going to have to go back to using the mallet, trying to slowly get this back on here. There we go. Took some effort. Probably wouldn't have been so bad if it was cleaned up a little bit better, and if you have a way of getting this really, really cold and getting this warm, it would slide on easier also. I just don't have a freezer that I'm willing to put this in, and I'm worried about getting the rubber here too hot. So okay, I think you'll remember me telling you that this was keyed, right? And I'm pretty sure that it was, yep, there's a different groove right here than the rest of it. And I think it lined up with the word Spicer right here. I'll put that boot on here in just a second. I just want to make sure this is the right way. Yep, that's the right way. So for this one, the label faced with that groove right there. I'm going to put some grease on this. Let's put that boot on. Collar goes on next. Well, I guess it could have done that before the grease. Give me a second. I'm gonna put this back in the vise, put the pipe in here, and give it a few smacks, because it's gonna do a couple of things. I think it's gonna press out on this part and also drive it in at the same time. So I'll be right back with you guys. Yep, a couple good smacks with that pipe right in the center there. And that drove it most of the way on. Just trying to look down inside there and make sure it's seated. That goes on that side. Remember I said Spicer lines up with the label. So let's try to get those lined up. So the clamps are the same size. I straightened this out just a little bit. Put that in the groove. There we go. It's a special set of pliers. It clamps those two together and mashes down at the same time. So I think that this this collar is just a little bit big. I could have reused this one. It just had some rust on it. And if you end up in the same position as me, you might want to consider it. or at least measure it first. Yeah, it's not gonna reach. Let me see what I got clamp wise. Put that on. Maybe I can grab a larger hose clamp or something like that. Or at a minimum, I can put some mechanics wire around it and tie it up. Let's do that, or pull this back out and put this one on and allow it to clamp down. And we may end up going that route, but let me see what I have in the box first. It took a little bit of digging, but I found a hose clamp that was really close, and I don't think it's going to be impacting anything. So put this bracket back on. That's pretty good. We got one more U-joint to put in. Now, for my trick, you're going to put the bearing caps back on, just like this, because when we put it on the truck, there's going to be two caps that go around here, and it's going to drop in. But we want to make sure these don't fall off, and the way we do that is we're going to wrap this with some tape. You don't have to go crazy with it, you just don't want those bearing caps to fall off because their needle bearings are going to go flying everywhere. Looks like we're ready to put this thing back in the truck. I'm going to grab my two ratchets. Remember, I had to use two to get it out. It's been a few days, so I'm actually lucky I remembered. So I have two ratchets to get it out of there. And 7/16. Make sure that the new or the old nuts thread onto it before you get too far. So I need those two tools. That we're going to grease this this shaft. We're going to grease that last bearing or universal joint when we get it up into the truck. I'm going to do my best to show you guys. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there is a keyway right there, right about there. For me, it lines up with this PD3 on top, so I need to find that inside the transmission. I need to find that keyway to make this line up. When it lines back up, if I've got everything right, the U-joint should pop right back into the differential, but it won't always, which means you need to put the transmission back in neutral to make sure that this can turn, allow you to put that back in. So I'll see you guys underneath the truck. It's clean. Wipe it down, good and clean. Alright. So either it didn't have a keyway, or I just got extremely lucky. I'm going to vote for it didn't have a keyway on this one. Something finally went right on it. Right for me, this build. I'm going to grab the two capture nuts. Slid up in place. I use my forearm to try to support it. Yeah, it's kind of heavy and awkward, that's for sure. Try to line up this carrier with the old grooves. Chances are it was pretty much in alignment before. If you made it this long. We're going to follow that up with a 15mm wrench so I can actually get some leverage on it. The two sockets I have aren't working as well as I want. That's it for the front. While I was up there, I also put the vehicle in neutral. I'm going to carefully pull this tape off. The reason for putting it in neutral is right now I can turn the drive shaft by hand to make it line up with the differential. So it's slightly off. I can rotate it a little bit, put everything in place. There's these two ears right here. There's one on each side. Make sure that you're in those, and then seat it all the way back. Don't let go of it. Get your bolts started. These tighten back down. 7/16. Probably an 11mm would probably work too. It's going to take a little while to get these tightened up because what you're doing is mashing them back in. A little grease gun. Love this little grease gun. I'll link it in the description. I use it for my chainsaws mostly. 3 U-joints, 1 center support bearing, carrier bearing, depends who you're talking to. And hopefully this gets rid of a lot of our clanking noise and makes it a more stable, trustworthy, reliable ride. Back in park. Let's see if we fix the problem. Oh, we didn't fix the low fuel problem. That's still occurring. Well, what do you know? No clunk. I'm even trying to make it make noise and I can't get it to make noise. So, looks like a good fix. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me for the day. For me it was a few days. Had to return some parts, and once I got off Amazon I had to get AutoZone to bail me out. Guys down there did a fantastic job. If you learned anything from this video, I really appreciate a thumbs up. A subscribe definitely helps the channel tremendously. As always, thanks for hanging out with me, and catch you guys on the next one.